So why in the world would you ever meet with a realtor when you are a year or maybe even longer away from actually making a purchase? So in this video, we're going to break down why it is critical for you to have the relationship established with your realtor long before you ever decide to make that purchase. So hang with us as we go through this entire scenario so you can learn the benefits of actually building that relationship with that realtor early. All right, my name is Andre Janan with the Adams Group Experience, and this is my man James Adams here, team lead at the Adams Group. And today we are going to be going over a scenario that should feel all too common for everybody watching this video on what the heck is gonna happen when you go to buy a house. James, what do you think?
I wish everybody would listen to this video and take this action a year beforehand if you want to know the real truth. It makes their journey so much less anxiety provoking. They're able to have a better experience. They're more prepared. It helps me to build a relationship with somebody. That I'll tell you, my least favorite thing to do is meet somebody for the first time because they just want to go see a house, because that person is seeing the value in me as a door opener, which really and truthfully is every real estate agent on earth, and it's not my value. So yeah, like I would love to meet with people a year early just to build a solid relationship before we get started, and because I can put them into a better position to buy a home with a better interest rate, to have a better savings plan, and when we go in, we're gonna have a lot more power inside of that negotiation.
Absolutely. So today, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna be your buyer.
Oh boy.
I'm your buyer. And if you watched our previous video, which we recommend, and we'll put a link to that in the description, is the average home selling price in Hernando County is about $330,000.
Yep.
So that's my budget.
Okay.
So my budget's $330,000. Okay.
Awesome.
And I have a home.
Okay.
And so I need to sell this home as well.
Okay.
So that I have the resources for my down payment to buy this next home.
Okay.
And I estimate that based on how long I've owned the home, that I should have enough to go 20% down.
Okay.
Okay? And so, but I don't know that I'm ready to do that right now.
Yep.
You know, I don't know that today is my day that I'm ready to list. And so what we're gonna do is let's walk through this as if you were meeting with me or I was meeting with you, because guys, we have the same presentation.
Yep.
Right? We do this the exact same way. What conversation are we having?
Yeah. Andre, man, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. I always like to meet people face to face when I get started so we can build a real relationship for moving forward. There is no rush. You communicated to me that this is going to be something down the road, so I don't want you to feel that way. But I just want to start by recapping some of the things that we've talked about, right? So you're going to be looking for a home in the 325, 330 range. You're going to be looking up in Hernando County.
Yep.
Perfect. I know you have a home to sell. Where is that home located?
So it's going to be off of Powell.
Powell?
Yeah, we'll say Powell and Barkley. We'll just use that as a main.
Perfect. And at some point, you know, this is, I would love to come over there and give you a consult on how to improve that home's value, but we're going to focus on the buy side here and how we're going to tie these two things together to get us started. You've communicated with me that the equity inside of your home is going to turn into your down payment. You want to put 20% down, is that right? Awesome. Before we dive into anything else, just tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for in a home. Why the change?
So my family's expanding. And so, you know, this was a great starter home. And now I need a bigger space to accommodate the new season of life that I'm in.
I like it.
And so,
congrats.
Thank you. And so, you know, going from, let's just say, a 3-bedroom now to a 4-bedroom.
Okay. All
right. And so, you know, obviously having the extra bedroom would be great.
Awesome. Currently you have 2 bathrooms on your home?
2 bathrooms.
You think that's okay with what you got, or you think that it would really help to have a 3rd one?
It would help, but it's not necessary. 2.5 would be ideal, depending on whether it's a 2-story home or a 1-story home.
Awesome. So 2-story is an option?
Is an option.
Awesome. HOA?
I would prefer either a minimal HOA where it's not as restrictive.
Okay.
Or a non-HOA.
Okay. I love it. It's not for me to work on there. And what's this? Do you know what the square footage of your home is now?
So it's about 1,800 square feet.
Awesome. Now, you've obviously purchased a home because you own your home. Have you ever sold a home to buy before?
No.
Okay, awesome. So we'll cover that inside of this. I want to make sure it's really clear on how this is all going to line up. When you purchased that last home, do you remember if you used the as-is contract in Florida?
Honestly, I didn't know much about the home buying process.
Okay.
And so they said sign here, and I signed here.
Okay. Well, I hope that we'll have the same trust in our relationship, but I want to make sure you're a little bit prepared. So I want to start with the purchase because I think it's going to help you understand better what the buyer is going to be thinking about for when it comes to buying your house. And then we'll do a whole separate consult for, what's our market entry price on your home? How do we go about those things? I want to talk about you buying. So we're going to go with the preemptive that we've already listed your home. We've got, contracts coming in or a contract already in place. And now we're positioned to where we can make an offer. Because the same as when I list your home, I would not want you to see you take an offer from somebody who either hasn't listed their home yet but needs to sell their home, or somebody who has listed their home but hasn't gotten a contract yet. Because if you're under a contract in that spot, who knows how long that you're going to wait before this person's even viable, or if they become viable. And if they don't, you're damaged because you had a backup market, right? So same mindset the seller's going to look at. That's the positioning. Now, I'm going to provide you a copy of that contract, but I want to walk through the steps of this. And if I'm ever getting redundant, I want you to stop me, okay?
Gotcha.
So we're kind of in phase one, right? And I'm going to write these here, and you can ask me any questions that you want throughout this. So we're in phase one, which is just face-to-face, right? So now we're going to go to the phase, let's say we're going right now, right? The next part is we're going to take this and we're going to develop our list of properties, right? And I'm sure you're already doing this on Realtor.
Well, yeah, Zillow, Realtor. Yeah. I have access to properties at my fingertips.
I love it. So from that list, we're gonna figure out which ones we want to go see, right? So I'm gonna do things on the back end because sometimes I know based on what you're looking for and issues that I'm seeing that I'm gonna say, hey man, look, this house is $60,000 overpriced. We just need to wait. There's no sense in going to see that unless you want to pay that difference. And the same is true maybe on the back end. I'm seeing some issues with permitting. I'm going to look at these things before we go because I'd love to save you time if I can, right? So now we've got our list. We're going to go out. We're going to show homes, right? It's a fun part. We open doors. You and I have some fun. I want to prepare you for what that's going to look like with me. I don't know your last experience with the realtor. I am not going to walk into the home and brag to you about the granite. I'm not going to be going over the moon about the blinds. I want you to walk into the home and walk freely to see if you and your family can live in this home and this is where you want to be. And while you're doing that, I'm going to be walking around obscurely looking at things. So don't think I'm a weirdo. I'm going to look underneath the sinks. I'm going to look at the ceilings. I'm looking for roof leaks. I'm going to look at the age of the AC, the age of the water heater. And the reason is I'm not an inspector. But if I can point out problems that I see from my experience and talk you out of buying this home, it could save you money in inspections, right? So that's showing homes. I want to make sure that you know that. Now, when we're out, we find a home. Now we're going to negotiate it, right? If you were going to sell your car today, what would be the first thing that you're going to do? You're going to go trade your car in. You're buying a new car. What are you going to do before you go to the dealership?
I mean, Kelley Blue Book, I mean, it's probably the most well-known source of car value that I know of.
Exactly. So cars are very finite, right? Like if you have, for me, right? So I've got a Kia. And if I punch my car in there, the Kias are all the same, right? Like that model is already there. Everything's exactly the same. It can be very, very accurate in its value. Homes are all different, right? So similar to what you're doing, I'm going to use a system where I hand pick and go through and develop you an analysis before you make an offer so that you can tell, is the property already well priced? Is it overpriced? Like, where do we need to come in here that we win? Because sometimes we might find a property that's underpriced, and if you get it at list price, you're winning compared to saving 20 grand on the other one.
Right.
Make sense?
Does.
Okay. So I'm going to help you through that offer process, and then we're going to negotiate to get it under contract. Now it's under contract. Do you remember escrow from the last period where you had to go make that deposit at the title company?
Escrow, is that like a down? No, that's not the down payment, but escrow, yeah, I think earnest money is the term I've heard used before. Is that the same thing?
Good faith, earnest, escrow, all the same. Like this is you putting up money that sits at the title company. It counts towards your down payment and your closing costs. But it goes up to show the seller that you're invested to buy this property, which I think is a little bit funny, and I'm going to tell you why as we go through this. So typical escrow I recommend to you is 1 to 2%. If we're in a competitive situation, I may tell you to go a little bit higher than that because it's a standout term on the contract if they're looking at multiple offers.
How do we know that we're in a competitive situation?
I'm going to tell you. So if we're looking at homes that just hit the market, I'm going to be getting a read from that agent of how much traction and how many showings they have on it. And I'm also going to be following up that agent to see if there's any other offers that come in, right? So we're going to know before we make an offer where we stand. And even after we make an offer, if we think we're the only one, I'm going to follow up with that agent with urgency to see if we can't put it together. That's for homes that are early on the market. Homes that have 14 plus days on the market, our chances of running into that go down a lot. It does happen sometimes where just free coincidence, where we put an offer and all of a sudden there's another offer involved.
Right.
But those homes, you're gonna have a little bit more leniency in negotiation. When they're there the first week, it's usually a little harder to negotiate.
Now, if I saw a home that's been on market for 100 days, would you advise me to stay away from that?
No, it's a great question though, right? Because like nobody else wants it, why would I want it, right? Great question. So it depends on the market. I'll tell you, Andre, that the going from July to December of last year, there was a lot of hard times for sellers. It was a very slow market. There was a lot less buyers, inventory stacked up. There's a lot of great homes that are sitting on the market that are being ignored because buyers are afraid of how long they've been on the market, but that's just the market. The market coming into this year, which is now heating up a little bit.
Okay.
Awesome. So we've got our property under contract. We've now deposited our escrow. Now we're in our inspection period, right? So we're going to go from escrow, and now we're in our inspection period. Do you remember how the inspection period works from the last time?
So I remember getting a report that was very long.
Yeah.
With a lot of red. Now, I could not tell from that at the time, what should I care about? Because I saw so much red that I didn't know whether this was just par for the course or is there actually a problem with this house? I think that was really confusing.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go through this the long way just to make sure it's really clear and that you're hearing it from me. Depending on the home you choose, right? If it has a septic or doesn't have a septic, I'm going to talk about the main ones that I'm going to recommend to you each time. Your general home inspection, which sounds like what you're referring to. That's your longer report. It's going to go nooks and crannies. It's going to look for moisture damage. It's going to be a very wide array of different issues. And we're going to look at those for functional items, right? Cosmetics, we need to catch those when we're walking through the house. We don't need to beat somebody up for cosmetics that we already saw, unless that's the game plan, right? And you and I can talk about that when the time comes. So when that inspection comes back, it's for reference and also finding things that you just feel are not acceptable to you. Now, the other two inspections that I'm going to recommend, actually three, is going to be the 4-point, the termite, and the wind mitigation. I'm going to start with the wind mitigation. I don't know the specifics of it, but this is the one that saves you in your insurance, right?
Okay.
So they're going to check out how far apart the nails are there clips on the home that are tying the roof down, and this is one that saves you way more than the cost of the inspection. So that one is just a no-brainer. Termite, we're in Florida, we do have termites. Even though most of the homes in this price range, we'll look at our block. The truss package is not, the door frames are not. I recommend you get a termite done. And the 4-point is the one we're really going to need for insurance. So the 4-point is going to cover your roof, your electric, your plumbing, and your HVAC. And if there's anything on that report that is unsatisfactory, it's going to have to be cured before you can get insurance. And you are going to need insurance in order to get your loan.
And even if I was paying cash, just to clarify, insurance has no bearing on that, right? That whether it's a cash or a finance transaction, you need insurance on that home unless you want to go uninsured?
Great question, right? So if a cash buyer, they do not technically need insurance, and this needs to be determined in the inspection period. Technically, you may be covered inside of the financing contingency, because if you can't get insurance, then you can't get the loan and you get a loan denial, right?
Right.
But if you're a cash buyer, you got to determine this in the inspection period, because if you are not okay with closing without having insurance on that home, your escrow is going to become liable in that spot once you go past the inspection period. But you can close on a home without having insurance if you're buying cash.
Okay. One day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
One day, I'll make it rain.
Those inspections, depending if it's septic or not, it's going to range somewhere between $600 and $1,000. So
Okay.
I want to make sure it's there. I'm going to write on this page 1,000 because I'd rather you think it's more and then it comes back and it's lighter. I do not own the inspection company. I don't know. I'm going to make sure to highlight that, right?
Right.
I will recommend one that I've had great success with, but we're going to put 1,000 here in case it does have a septic. All right. So inspections are good. Now, in our inspection period, I'm going to give you a copy of the contract, so I want you to read it. But it reads in buyer's sole discretion, which means not because an inspector said it sucked, not because somebody came in and said, no. It is your choice, right? You could wake up the next day and say, man, I don't like the way the wind blows on that property. And you can back out utilizing that inspection period, right? That's good to know. It's good pressure relief in a competitive situation too, which we can talk about later. But does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I feel like I don't know. Why would I want to walk away?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different scenarios that can come up in that period, and even after maybe you paid your $700 for your inspections, maybe we got a home in the neighborhood next to the one that you really wanted, and the one that had the better school zone for your kids, and that home happened to hit the market 5 days in, and you had a change of heart. Like you believe that you need to switch over to see this house. I will continue to show you homes. I want to make sure you have a really good chance. And the inspection period gives you an extra window to make sure you've made a great decision.
Okay.
Right?
And how long is the inspection period typically?
I recommend 7 days. It's definitely an important term to sellers because the same as when we list your house, we're going to be looking closely at that because we know a buyer has the right to walk away at any point during that period. So 7 days are inspections. If you go with the one that we recommend, they can usually get out within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
Yep. So far we've got escrow, which is going to range, but for you it's going to be 4,000 or 5,000. So I put 5,000. Inspections going to range again, but I put 1,000. When we get our reports back, 4-point issues are the easiest to negotiate. 99% of the time we're going to get those negotiated. It's going to be very simple. Now, if there's things on the general home inspection report that you're concerned about, this is our opportunity to negotiate right then and there. Let's move through that. We've made our negotiations. You're happy, seller's happy, or both of you are unhappy. No matter what it is, you guys are both want to move forward. So we move past the inspection period. Now we're really in the blue ocean, right? So like you can't back out for any reason that you choose. If you just choose that you want to walk away, your escrow is liable. I want to make sure that you know that. If you just wake up and say, I don't want to buy this anymore, your escrow is liable at that point.
Liable for what?
So no matter what, I'm not an attorney. And if there's ever an escrow dispute, it's going to go to mitigation. Like you guys are going to have to work that out between buyer and seller if you don't agree. But if you decide to walk away just because you don't feel like buying the house anymore, there is no contingency covering you to do that.
Gotcha.
Right? So I don't want to interpret, I don't want to push any further, but if you read through that contract, I think you'll come to it to realize that your escrow is liable, right?
Okay.
Past inspection periods, now we are going to have a loan. So somewhere in the inspection period, your lender is going to order that appraisal, right? And after it's ordered, it usually takes about a week for the appraiser to go out and about another week for the appraiser to send the report back.
Okay.
That appraisal has to come back at or above our purchase price. And if there's any repairs that they've noted, those have to be cleared. In other words, they have to be repaired prior to closing, right? If we have a shortfall in appraisal, I want to talk about this now. My job is to try to protect you. Because if we have a shortfall in appraisal and you are not able to make up the difference and the seller doesn't want to come down, at that point our deal might die. And the appraisal is going to cost you $700 plus you had 1,000 inspections. That means you'd be out $1,700. So if we go back up to the top to where we're making offers, now I want to reiterate why it's so important for me to do my due diligence and help you to analyze the value of that property compared to the neighborhood. Does that make sense now?
So how common is it that a house doesn't appraise?
With me, not very often.
Okay.
Yeah, not very often with me, but it does happen. And sometimes you and I might be in, like I've been in a situation, I can think of two, where we looked at it and yeah, like we felt like it was a stellar deal. We were looking at exact comps within 100 square feet of each other, same bedrooms, same age, had the pool, like everything was the same. And the appraiser came in 10 grand short. And the buyer and I couldn't understand what had happened there. So I am not an appraiser, right? But my job is to help you to avoid that situation, and I do it at a very high percentage.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. So appraisal comes back. Let's talk about if it is short, just for that case. There's going to be 4 things that can happen. 1, we get the seller to reduce the price. I want to tell you that's the most common thing that does happen. Is we have the seller come down to the appraised value, which is what the appraiser determined is the market value. The second thing is that you bring the difference between, so if we were at 330 and it came in at 320, either the seller is going to come down to 320. The second thing is that you bring 10,000 additional cash to the table, right? So your loan amount is based on 320, but you bring that extra 10,000. Okay. The third option is a mixture of both. So seller comes to 325 and you bring 5 extra K, right? And the fourth option is that the deal falls apart, because if we can't come up with one of the other 3, we have to move on from there.
So, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Why would I want or be okay with paying more than the house is worth?
Me in particular, I don't know that I would be, if you want to know the real truth. But if you want some rationales that I've heard in the past,
sure,
is let's say that you're going to pay $5,000 extra. And the experts, if you look at a bunch of different sources, are seeing anywhere between 0 and 6% appreciation. Looking at everything I've looked at, I think we're going to see 4 to 5% appreciation this year. So on 330,000, let's say 4% appreciation, roughly 12 grand of appreciation. The difference that you paid on that extra 5 grand is actually gone.
Okay.
Right? That's one rationale that I've heard before. Another one is value can sometimes be determined internally. Like me, I make a lot of decisions based on the financials. So to me, it's very important to buy things at a good value. Right. But maybe this was the only home in the neighborhood that you really wanted to be in.
Right.
Right. So now you're in a tough spot where, is it worth the 5 grand to be there or not? Another case that it really comes up is, you know, if you look out on the Wickiwachi River, you might see a 2-story single family home that's 800,000, right? And it's on a certain part of the river, that's okay, you know, a little brackish. And then you might have one that opens up to a giant swimming hole right there. And if that one's sitting there in front of the manatees, at that point, that house, that one lot alone might be worth $1 million to a certain buyer, right? So the beauty is in the eye of the beholder on that.
One more question.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sell my house.
Yep.
And we come up with a price, and the price appraisal falls short for whatever reason.
Yep.
Does that mean every appraisal after that is going to come in at the same price?
It's a great question. So FHA does stay with the home, so the next appraiser is going to come up with the same value, and I don't know that they can see them on the back end, but I have a feeling that they can. You can always challenge appraisals, and we do win those sometimes. Like VA gives you the opportunity through Tidewater, where they basically come to the agent and say, hey, I'm coming up short in the appraisal. Can you find me comparables that rationalize the price?
Okay.
FHA and conventional don't do that. I will tell you that challenging appraisals is difficult. That's why I really stress putting together the comparables up front and making sure we're making a good decision on the front end.
Okay.
Cool. So now appraisal comes back, last part of the process. So I'm going to put this here. So appraisals going to cost you about $700, ranging, right? Like I'm not, again, I don't own the appraisal company. The next part is survey. Very, very rarely is there a survey problem, so I don't want you to stress this part. It usually gets paid out of the closing costs, so it's not a hard cost to you out of your pocket right away. Checking the boundaries, make sure there's no encroachments, make sure that if it's a well, it's on your property. If there's a shed, it's on your property. Somebody else's well is on your property, which creates problems. So in order for them to give you a full title commitment, they'll need that, and the lender needs a full title commitment for them to fund the loan.
What's a title commitment?
It's basically looking back through the chain of title to make sure that you truly do own the property, because the property has changed hands over the course of however many years that the property's been up for sale, if you will, like not just this time, but going back. And they usually go back 30 years. They're looking for things as simple as somebody's wife didn't sign off for the release of the property, which does happen, right? And the reason that it's important to have a title commitment is after you close, if that wife were to come back and say, nope, I own the property, you've got an insurance policy in place that can either help fight it for you or protect you from a financial loss in that particular case.
How long does that insurance policy last? Is it for the life of the ownership?
I believe it is for the life of the ownership. I don't want to say that for sure because I don't know that here off the top of my head.
Because I would imagine that would be an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden Uncle Jimmy from 20 years ago. It's like, here's my napkin that says
Yep.
that my brother signed this off to me.
Tony, our title partner would be a really great person to jump on with.
Okay.
And he'd be willing to hop on a call with you. He'd love to earn your title business for when we sell your house too.
Okay.
Okay. Past that, man, we're going to closing, and this is a really important thing. So go back to the beginning. We had a contract on your home.
Okay.
We needed that because it told us what the closing date was on the sale of your house. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that closing date, we're going to close in the morning, and we're going to make that date our closing date for buying the house, and we're going to close in the middle of the day or the afternoon, right? Okay. And the reason for this is it's simultaneous. Basically, the day of closing, we're going to have everything on a moving truck ready to go. Between my wife and I and our team, we can help to develop a plan for you of what this is going to look like. We don't, if you're struggling with it or you haven't done this before, we can tell you some great movers here locally and just how to get prepared for this. But the goal here is so that we can sell your house. It's going to close in the morning, and then we close on the other house in the afternoon, so you have a seamless transition right over.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, that's a stressful thing to make sure that both things go smoothly.
For sure, absolutely. But we do everything we can. We have a really high success rate on this, by the way. Any last questions before we wrap up here?
No, I think that part of what we were trying to do here is to say, that the value in the conversation is because there's so many moving parts to this.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that could go and derail something.
Yep.
That getting ahead of it, right? And the communication and the expectations and the understanding of what each phase, not only does it reduce anxiety, because this is a very anxious moment, especially if you're having to close on your current home to buy a new home in the same day. That's a lot of coordination.
Yeah.
It's a lot can go wrong.
Yep.
Between the point of signing the contract and closing date, that I think people underestimate the value of that partnership.
There's something that didn't get touched on here that I think, more in words I want to touch on now is in this conversation, like I would never say on our phone call before we got to this moment, Andre, I need you to apply with the lender. I need you to do this. Because you'd be like, I'm not buying a house for a year.
Yeah.
But in this conversation now, we're face to face. You can sense that I'm trying to help you. I don't care that you're not buying a house for a year. Right. I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and talk to the lender, right? Because if you can talk to the lender now, one thing I've seen is people think they have great credit, but they have a problem. Right. And it's a sizable problem that's going to take time for them to have the money to fix, right? That's one situation I've seen. And I've also seen where somebody does not have a problem, but there's a way that we can help them to improve their credit score to get into a better interest tier. And none of this happens from us, but we have a great mortgage partner right here inside of the team who some mortgage people you apply, you're out. They're like, what do you mean? Because it costs them money for you to apply, right? Our mortgage partners understand our vision and the fact that we want to help people. So they're going to take your application. They're going to work through to make sure that we don't have the first situation, right? That we don't have any problems in our way. If you do have problems in your way, they're going to consult you on how to resolve those problems. And the second thing that they're going to do is they're going to look through at your profile and tell you how to improve to get to the next credit tier. This way you can have the best interest rate possible a year from now, right? So like, this is something that we're helping you to do. We're helping you understand the process, what we need to do along the way, and how to better position yourself to have better interest rate and ultimately a better payment when the time comes.
Gotcha. And there's going to be two types of people that are going to watch this video. There's going to be people who are looking at the process, trying to get information on the internet and trying to see how is this process going to look, maybe they're first-time home buyers. Give us a call. We're happy to walk this through with you. And each situation is going to be unique. And the other piece that might be looking at this is other agents. Trying to figure out how to have these conversations and what are the different steps. And so you guys can reach out to us too, because the idea is that we build relationships that last a lifetime with someone on one of the biggest purchases they'll ever make. And the more that we can educate and inform, the more comfortable you feel, not only when you get to the closing table, but the years that go by after that.
Yeah, and I think one of the concerns that both may have here, like, if you're somebody who's watching this, like, wow, this sounds great. I don't care where that you're buying. Please reach out to us. Like, there is no obligation. Like, we're not going to try to put paperwork in front of you or something crazy. We're going to consult you and help to develop you to be ready to do what you want to do. And the same thing for agents, man. If you call us, you got a question, we're going to help you work through that particular thing and try to add value to help you sell more homes. That's one of the passions that we have here at the team.
Yep. So until we meet in our next video, we hope you're having a wonderful day, and we will see you guys next time. All right. Done.
What's going on, Big Papa?
Children.